What's going on, everybody? It's Knights of the Dragon. It's Drew Danger here. You know me, and you know what we do here. We've got a very, very special guest. But before we get to that, we'll introduce our team. We've got Lady Laura. We've got Ricco Ranger. And we've got our very special guest, my brother, my mentor, the legend himself, Aliens hero, Aliens warrior, Ricco Ross, James Cameron's favorite.
Deuces.
Oh, yeah.
Representing, guys. So tonight's the tales come around, the fire comes around. We tell a story from our greatest warrior, the man that influenced me, Ricco Ross, also known as Private Frost from Aliens. You guys know the movie. Game over, man. Game over. Oh, and before Ricco gets started, I got to make sure.
Oh, check it out.
That's right.
Nice.
That's how I get down. That's how I get down. So, Ricco, we're so glad to have you. It's just an honor for you to be here. You know, I get excited every time I get a chance to talk with you. And we haven't been in person in a long time. And we were doing the movie. You know, we were in a lot of meetings and a lot of that over the phone and jumping back and forth and all that stuff like that. So it's just a lot of history and great times. Just when I think about it, you know, so, you know, we got some questions and some things we're going to ask you if you're cool with that, and we're going to get into it, but I'm not going to hog it off for myself. I think, Laura, you should start with the first question on the list.
Well, they have a list. I'm going to divert from the list because I've got all this excitingness going on in my head. I'm so excited to meet you, and Aliens is one of my favorite movies. And tell me about like what it was like on set. Like, tell me about Sigourney. Like, what was it like? Like, what she like, and then what were you like, and then what was the little girl like, Carrie Henn, and then tell me about like where you guys walk into the underground when you go into the nest. What was that made of? Like, I love behind the scenes stuff. So like when you go into the reactor and you see the big aliens, like how did they make those, and like what was your experience? And oh my gosh, I'm just
That was a lot of questions. Let me see here. I'll start off with the first one because I like this question about Sigourney. How was it to work with Sigourney? This was the first female action lead in a movie. And it was the first movie that I had worked on where there was a female lead at that time. And there was something that happened during the course of filming the movie. We worked long hours, very long hours, but there was a problem with the overtime pay. And some of the crew would complain, and those that complained too much ended up getting fired. And so the crew kind of felt like they didn't have a voice. But Sigourney heard about this, and Sigourney had a meeting with the producers and the directors, and she said, "Listen, you can work them as long as you want to work them, but you got to pay them. You got to pay them for the time that they're doing, and you got to pay them right." And I guess they worked it out. And she also asked that you rehire some of the people that complain. And when that crew came back to work, I think part of the success of this movie was that they were not just working for the producers anymore. They were working for Sigourney because Sigourney spoke up for them. And as a young actor, I mean, I was only like 25 or 26 at the time. I remember that. And I said, that is the example of how you should use the power, because that power comes with responsibility. And that's what you do, because those people didn't have a voice. They didn't have the power, but she spoke up for them. And I think because of that, they worked their butts off when they got back to work, and that is one of the key elements of why I think this movie worked as well as it did.
Definitely.
Awesome.
I love
Wow.
the Spider-Man quote in there, great power, great responsibility. It's
There
true.
you go.
Yeah.
Classic, man. I mean, that's
That's
why that
cool.
movie is what it is.
That's
It's so
cool.
crazy to hear that, because when I watched that movie, like my dad grew up in the 70s too, so it was Star Wars, aliens. He still talks about an alien stuff that he had, that you put your hand in it and the mouth used to come out of it. And my
Right.
and my mother got rid of it on him one time in the yard, so he still talk about that toy. And so, and then like I come from the comic world, so the xenomorphs are a variant cover. They're a very special mashup on certain covers. So when they put them on, like, Predator 2, when they do those type of variants with the xenomorphs and the predators, they're worth a lot of money. They're cool looking.
Right.
It's almost like on top of it being filmed like a great film and one of Cameron's classics, and you guys acted tremendously, the creature work and the way that a
Yeah,
xenomorph
that's
is culturally what it has become, it's like a top 3 creature probably ever, bro.
Let me
yeah.
let me
Be
tell you.
honest,
Let me
for me.
piggyback off of that since you brought it up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, James had this thing where he would keep the Marines away from the creatures,
Right.
and so when we would have lunch during our breaks, we never hung out with each other.
Yeah.
And some of those guys were dancers, they were stunt guys, but we never hung out with them. They were the
Mhm.
enemies even when we were off screen,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I remember, I wish we had cell phones at that time, but I remember one day I was walking by the door where they were all, and they were all in this door in this old other room, and one of them had a cigarette in his mouth. He had the outfit on, the costume on, and he had the head under his arm.
Yeah.
And that shot right there would have been classic if I could have captured it. But it
Oh
was
yeah.
it was very different. And the other thing was, speaking of it, the creatures, was when you saw because we didn't use the special effects of the 80s because everything
Right.
was practicals. When you
Right.
saw the queen, oh,
Mhm.
she was huge.
Yeah.
She was huge, and I think it took like 3 or 4 people to operate her, and there was a person inside as well.
Yeah.
So it was all happening, but it was in real time, and you can watch it and you can touch it. And they used 3 different
Mhm.
types of slime on her. They used a thin slime, a thick slime, and something in the middle. And so you had this slime that would come fast, and some of it would go slow. And
Yeah.
when you saw it in real life, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's shots still to this day in that movie that still holds up. Still holds up, So
And your
uh,
work in that was just, you're very talented. Now, where did you go to acting school, or how did you get into acting? Because you're very, very talented.
Thank you so much, Laura. I didn't choose acting. Acting kind of chose me. Um, I was one of these students that was probably had too much sugar in my diet, and and I come from a family of 11 kids. I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and
Okay.
wow.
so I was always busy. And I went to high school. It was a new school that we were sharing with another school, and so the part of the other school would go in the morning time, and we would come in the afternoon. So I got there early one day, and I wanted to sneak in. And this teacher saw me sneaking in, and she wouldn't let me sneak in. And I gave her some lie about, I left something in there, and she didn't buy it. She saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this this little girl, this little white girl, we're in the South, by the way. This little white girl came up, and she said she had left her book in, and she let her go. And the girl had left her book in.
Hmm.
But because of that, I used that opportunity to make the teacher feel bad. And I started acting my ass off. I mean, to the point where my eyes got all water and everything. And she said,
Hmm.
I am not letting you in school. But she says, but you are going to be in my play.
Wow.
Nice.
And I was in her play. And that was the start. of my bug for the acting, because I did that play, and then after that, I did another play, and the third play I did before I left high school, I was one of the leads, and it was the biggest play they'd ever had there. And so when I got in college, and we got to the point where they said you have to choose your major, I went to this counselor, and he says, "Well, what do you enjoy? What are you good at? And can you make money? Those are the three things you should consider." And I thought, well, I think I'm good in acting, and I love it, so I'd like to do that. And so I went to school, and I graduated. But after I graduated, I felt like I wasn't really ready, so I auditioned to go to grad school at UCLA, and UCLA granted me a position out of 12 people, and they only allow, like, I think they are only like 6% of the people that apply get in. So I was really happy about that, and I started working right after I graduated. But unfortunately, the big thing that I did after I graduated was Hill Street Blues, and I played a gang member. But Laura, coming from Chicago, we know the gang culture. So playing a gang member, I could do that with my eyes closed. But after I did that character, that was all I was getting offered. Nothing else but gang members and that kind of role. And so I went back to one of my college professors, and I expressed my frustration. I said, "I'm happy as hell to be working right out of college." I said, "But I'm frustrated because I think I got more to offer than just playing gang members." And he
Right.
suggested that I study Shakespeare. He set up an audition for me to go to London. For me to audition for a London school. And I got in, and I went to London, studied Shakespeare for a year. For the next 4 years, I stayed there. After it was only a 1 year period, but they had asked all the Americans to acquire British accents so that we could focus on the character and not be so focused on accents. And so my British accent was as good as any English person's. And when the class was over with, the course was over with, I ended up going on auditions as an Englishman. And for the next 4 years, I worked as an Englishman in London, because as an American, I couldn't work there because I would need work papers, and I didn't have work papers. So I worked as an Englishman for 4 years. Then I got legal status. And after that, I started working on American projects like Aliens, Mission Impossible, Dirty Dozen, Death Wish, all those that were cast in London.
I see. So Aliens was filmed in London?
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was filmed in London because you can make that film in London for probably more than a third of a percent less than you could in Hollywood.
Oh,
And
wow.
they had really, really good crews. So you're getting the same talent, but you're paying, only 60% of what it would cost. So they made the whole movie there, and they brought over maybe 5 actors, and then everybody else they picked up that were there.
Okay. Cool. That's cool. So how tell me about how you got the part of our beloved Frost.
So I went in to meet for the role, and James had me read Hicks and Hudson. And I'm a young actor. At that time, I came to England with Hollywood credits, so I got a lot of confidence. And James wasn't James Cameron that we know now. He had I think he had done Terminator, which I didn't know he had done. And so it wasn't a big deal to me. So when he had me come in and read Hudson and Hicks, I ended up falling in love with those 2 characters. And then I said, "If you're not casting me for these 2 roles, then I'm really not interested." And he says, "Well, Ricco, I can't give you those roles now." He says, "I haven't seen anybody." He says, "You're one of the first people that I've seen for these roles." And he says, "But just do me a favor. I'm going to see some other people. But before you accept anything, just at least come back and talk to me, because I'd love you to be a part of the production." And I said I would do that. During the course of him auditioning other people, I auditioned for a movie called Full Metal Jacket. Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
Now, Stanley Kubrick was really well known. And every actor wanted to work with Stanley Kubrick, because he's really into improv and the actors kind of creating these characters. So I meet with Stanley Kubrick, and Stanley Kubrick offers me a role in Full Metal Jacket. And it overlapped with Aliens 1 week. He wanted me for 8 weeks. and it overlapped 1 week. But James had said, before you accept, would you at least please come back and talk to me? So I get in contact with James, and I go back there, and I meet with him, and I tell him, I said, listen, I've been offered this role at Full Metal Jacket with Stanley Kubrick, and I really want to do it. I said, but I do have some problems with it. I asked if they could give me the whole script so that I can read it and compare the script with your script. And Kubrick says, no. He says, the script isn't written. He says, what we're going to do is we're going to workshop it with you guys, and what the actors bring is what we're going to come up with, which to an actor like me, I love improv. I was like, oh, cool. But the other thing, Kubrick wanted to pay everybody scale, which is basically the least you can pay somebody within the union. And I wasn't happy about that. And then the third thing was, after I told James that it overlapped a week, James says, I will let you come to Aliens a week late if he'll release you after 8 weeks. So I ended up getting back in contact with Kubrick's people, and I said, listen, I'd love to do the movie, but you have to release me after 8 weeks. And then Kubrick says, no, I don't want to be under that pressure. And then I said, well, at least pay me my fee and not scale. And he said, no. And then I said, well, can you give me a better idea about the script and the role I'm going to be playing? And he said, no. And so then I said no. And he was shocked, because I don't think he's used to being told no by actors. Yeah. and rightfully so, because the man was a genius. Yeah. But I had to pass on it and go with James, because James told me, he says, I will rewrite this script, Ricco, and I will take these 3 characters and I will create one character that would be your character. And he says, and I won't pay you scale. I'll pay you above scale. And those 2 things really mattered to me. And so James just seemed like he was a real straight up guy. The script was so different from anything I'd ever seen before that I chose to do Aliens, and I've never looked back.
No, you made the right choice. Definitely.
Absolutely. You took this kid, that saw the movie that I wasn't supposed to see, that my older brother, had seen.
That's what older brothers are for.
That's what they do. And he's watching it, and I'm going in, and I see you guys, and I'm like, and by the way, my older brother is I know you know this. My brother's a Marine.
Right,
one of the biggest things that he told me was, you know how many Marines got influenced by Aliens and by Starship Troopers, and by G.I. Joe, and you hear about it from all of them. Like they'll pick a character and they'll be like, oh man, I was gung ho from G.I. Joe, so I joined the Marines to be him. Like, you would hear that, and he's like, they would be so big about that. And he said it was the craziest thing ever. But you guys had, I would say, the #1 film influence on my brother came from Aliens, because I remember the day he saw it and how crazy he was for the movie. He was like yelling out quotes and everything, and he was into it. And it was big because my brother didn't do that a lot, but that movie did something to him, and he's one of the biggest heroes in the Iraq and Afghan war.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Like, it's the real deal. He went to Marine Recon and Special Operations and was one of the main forces out there. So, and that came from him, and he's like Hicks. He's very, very quiet, but he doesn't exactly want to be the leader, but he'll be that leader, and he'll be a great one to be.
There you go.
And that's him. And,
it's interesting you should say that, because I was talking to Michael the other day, and he was saying that there was a line in the movie where he had to make a choice, and he chose to go a different way. And the line was, why don't you let her lead? Is she the boss? She the boss. She knows everything. Let her lead. And then Sigourney says, no, Hicks is
that's leading. Right.
And Hicks, in the script, it was written, he was like, yeah, I'm the leader. And he decided to go the other way. He decided to go, okay.
Yeah, I'll that's lead. Right.
And it was a choice that he made, which also made the character kind of like a little more believable, and it wasn't so stereotypical. because he's leading because he has to, not because he wants to.
Right.
And so, I mean, it was interesting for him giving his tweaks that he did to the character and to the role when I was talking to him about it.
And that's exactly what my brother picked up on and what we picked on. He wasn't the leader that wanted to be out there in the front. He's the one that has to be. And when he does that line, she says, you know, this is a military operation and Corporal X is the next in the chain of command. Am I right, Corporal? And then he's like, yeah, she's right. And he's still kind of like, I don't want to be that guy, but, you know,
we were just having this conversation yesterday, man, and he was breaking it down for me. Yeah.
If he's ever up to it, I would love the kid inside of me wearing a Colonial Marine helmet with the pulse rifle. Would love to have Frost and Hicks together in a show.
Yeah, that would be great.
Dream of dreams right there.
Yeah. Well, me and Drew talk all the time about a Colonial reboot. Do like Starship Troopers and Aliens and Xenomorphs together, like, and make it about the Colonial Marines. You guys need like your own show, man, like a Disney Plus
cool. But I hear that there's a TV series coming out now, or has it been out already?
Mm-hmm.
I know that they've been working on it, and I don't know if they're, because you know we had that fight with 20th Century Fox, Ricco, back in the day, and you know how they are about things. So I don't know, because now that Disney owns Aliens, there's a chance they might get, you know, be like, oh, why don't we do a show since we already own everything? So we'll see if they do it, because they did do this new movie, Romulus, the new Romulus movie. So I'm like,
no, I've seen that advertisement for it, but I haven't seen it.
I saw pieces of it.
Did you see it, Ricco?
I haven't seen it. I do want to see it. I've just been kind of busy.
You're a book guy.
I do want to see it, and I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's kind of like the Jurassic Park movies. Like, you love seeing dinosaurs and you love the movies, but they're not always what they could be, and you know what I mean. But they're good enough. That's kind of how
I'm always rooting for the franchise, so I hope it is good, and I hope people like it.
Yeah,
I didn't have anybody to go with me, you know, because Rebecca, she saw the trailer and she said, I'm not watching. Rebecca said, I'm not watching that movie. And I said, well, who am I going to go with? Because, you know, I'm out here in Colorado now, so I can't have somebody from California. And the few people I know, you know, everybody's kind of booked. So I just haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. I know Luke would jump moons to go see it, but I'm not going to be that parent to take him to see that horror movie fest and have to explain that. Not going to do that one. Even though he walked past the poster, we went to see the new Transformers and he saw the poster and he was like, look, we got to go see it. I said, I can't do that one, buddy. I can't. So, I mean, it's one of those things. And Ricco, if I could, I wanted to ask you about this.
Oh, yes. That little guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was interesting because they contacted me and they said they wanted to do an action figure. And that was cool, but the money was not really much at all.
Right.
And I have a love-hate relationship with this whole project because we shot it in England. And even though I was a Hollywood actor, because I was living in London, they wouldn't give me a SAG contract. And even though I asked for one, and the consequences of that is that every time this movie is shown, since it's come out, I receive nothing, not a penny.
Wow.
And I remember the first year it came out, it had broken all records for video rentals. And Bill Paxton called me up and was like, dude, have you got the check yet? And I'm like, what check? He goes, 100K, dude. And he's so excited that he wants to share this with me. And then I had to explain to him that there will be no checks coming to me, man, because I got cast on the British equity contract. And so I mean, I understand it, it's business, but as a young actor at 25, I do think that this movie has made so much money that they have kind of exploited the people who really contributed the expertise to make the movie what it is.
Right.
And so I've done commercials and photo shoots and got paid more than I made in Aliens.
Wow.
So when this came, they called me and said they wanted to make an action figure, and then they came with very little money, and I just thought, no, I just feel like I'm being exploited again, and I'm not down with it. And then they came back and they persisted, and they were saying they couldn't offer any more money. And then I was complaining to somebody about it, and they were saying, there really aren't a lot of Black action figures. And so basically this made me get out of my own head and stop thinking about myself and just thinking about the bigger picture of it. And that there are, like Drew, your kid might want to, it might be important for that kid to see a Black action figure. So I put my pride on the shelf, man, and I said, okay, I'll do it. But it was a cool process. Once that was over with, it was a very cool process, man, because they asked me to send them photographs of myself, and I sent them the photographs. They put it into a 3D computer, and they made this little head, and they sent it to me. And they says, what do you think? And I said, I think the jaw is too big, but other than that, it's great. And they made the adjustments, and it looked like me at that time. And then they said something else that I was really happy about. They said that in the movie, we never really see the back. And we know that you guys personalize your uniforms. So they said, you can personalize it now at whatever you want. And so I came up with this idea. And when you look at the back of it now, that's why the back is what it is. And in the back, I've got the initials of my kids. And because we were space astronauts, I decided to put the colony of Africa on the back as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's right here. I'm looking at it. It's literally right here. I'm looking at it.
And then they sent me like a box of like 25 of them, man. And so it was cool because I was able to give it to my little nieces and nephews, give them, little replicas of their uncle.
That's cool. What company made them?
NECA Toys did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we went in and we fought. I said, Ricco, push for this. We got to make sure.
And that's probably why, because the fans wanted it. You know,
we pushed for it. And so it was like, hey, I've wanted this figure since, because they did the first Aliens figures in '93. They came out and they didn't have you. So they had Hicks, they had Drake, they had Apone, they had Ripley.
Did they have the little girl?
No. They didn't have her. So I think it was those four. Then later on, like way down the road, they did Hudson, and then they did Vasquez. So they never did you. And I remember when they came out at KB Toys in '93, and I was at the movies, and it was at the mall in California, and they had them out, and there was Hicks, and I grabbed Hicks, and I was looking for your figure and Hudson, but they didn't have them yet. So the thing was, like, I always wanted that figure, and they never did it. So when NECA started doing, because they did Hicks and Hudson first, and it was just the two of them, and then like an alien. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to do the next. And that's when I started like writing with NECA, and Adam started writing, and we were like, hey, these are the characters we definitely want to see. And yours was top list for me, because there was next
for this project in particular. The fans have been amazing. I probably wouldn't have an action figure if it wouldn't have been for the fans. I probably wouldn't have the relationship that I have with the cast if it hadn't been for the fans, because they bring us together all the time. And now we've watched each other's kids grow up and all that, man. In another year and a half, it's going to be 40 years since we've known each other all this time, but you guys give us the opportunity and the reason to reconnect. And so now, even outside of the sci-fi cons, we reconnect. We go to dinner and we hang out and stuff like that. But that has a lot to do with the fans helping us work on that relationship. I got a movie coming out and that's dropping on October 10th, and it was a 3-picture deal. And the way I got this movie was the strangest thing, because they were based on these romantic stories, these books written by Brenda Jackson, and somebody sent me a cover of a book with my picture on it, on the cover, and I didn't know anything about this. And so I got my people. I said, listen, they can use the picture. I'm happy with them using the picture, but if you're going to use it, ask me. At least ask me. Don't just take the picture and use it. And then if you're going to use it, pay me. And if you're not going to pay me, at least let me say, yes, you can use it. And then the author herself got in contact with me, and she said, we did not do this. She says, a fan did this. And that fan poster of that book went viral. And then the audience wanted that actor to play the role. And so in that conversation, she asked me if I would play the role. And I ended up getting a 3-picture deal out of that.
Wow.
We shot the first one about 6 or 7 years ago, and we shot the second and third one in April, and they're dropping the first one on October 10th.
Look at that!
Wow.
But again, it was fans making things happen for actors that they like. So I don't take fans for granted, which is why I'm on this podcast right now.
That's good for you.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring up something that I don't think anybody's brought up. I mean, I could be wrong, but you did another movie with Bill Paxton and Mark Hamill called Slipstream. I bet you don't get that a lot, do you?
I don't get that a lot. No. And it was so fun to work with Bill again after that. And we had the best time. That was one of the best times on set, because we got back, we got on set, man, and we were just back together like we had never been apart. And we had a great time shooting it. But if you look at it, I've worked with Bill on Slipstream. I've worked with Mark Rolston on another movie, which I can't remember the name of it now. And I think I've worked with Michael Bean on another movie called Into the Woods. And I've worked with Daniel Cash on another movie. So I mean, we've worked together on different movies. And then when I was talking to Michael yesterday, he was telling me about him and Bill Paxton, that they had worked on several movies together.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I ask you?
Let me see. Lords of Discipline. They did Navy SEALs, and then they did Tombstone together.
Yes.
There you go.
Right. Bill was
in Terminator.
Yeah,
Bill had
and
a small
they did
part in
Terminator.
Terminator.
Yeah, that's right. So it'd make that the 4 at 5 with Aliens. So they did
there you go.
5 movies picture.
Can I ask something?
Go ahead, Lord.
Sure.
First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. I know you and Bill were very close. Can you tell us about him? Tell us about Bill.
Oh man, Bill, man. When he first passed away, it was hard going to sci-fi cons without him.
Yeah.
And even if it was a con that he wouldn't have gone to, it was still hard going to the con, knowing that he was gone. Right. And the first 3 cons that I went to after that, I brought like this 2 feet by 3 feet picture of us at the breakfast table with me and Bill doing this hand slap. And I would put that there because I wanted him to be there with me. The last time I saw Bill, we were in Texas at a con, and we were just hanging out. And this is when I kind of really understood something about how big he had blown up. We were out walking around at night in the evening time after the con, and we had dinner, and then we were walking around and we were smoking some weed, and and we were just talking, just having a good time, man. And then we were walking back to the hotel lobby, and he stopped, and I was like, "What?" He goes, "Because there were people in the lobby. There were a lot of fans in the lobby." And he was like, "I can't go in there, man." I was like, "What do you mean you can't go in there?" He goes, "If I go in there, man, they're gonna want to talk. They're gonna want signatures." And he says, "And I'm gonna give it to him." And he says, "I might find myself there for the next hour doing that." And he was a little high, and I was a little high, and he just didn't want to do it. So he had to sneak in the back, and I was able to walk into the front. And I remember thinking, that a lot of actors, they want fame, but there's a price to pay for it. Dude.
Oh yeah.
So after that, we get back to LA, and I remember hitting him up and saying, because he had told me about this operation he had to do. And I remember talking to him. I said, "Listen, man, how do you feel about this operation? Are you okay? Are you stressing about it or what?" And he goes, "No, it's just a routine operation, so I'm not worried about it." He said, "My problem I'm having is that my schedule is really full," because he was producing and starring in Big Love. And he said, "So I've got a lot on my plate, and so to have this operation and then to be out for a while and to recover." He said, "That's the only thing I'm a little concerned with, because I'm not just the actor in it, I'm the producer in it." But he says, "I'm not worried about it." And he thanked me for checking in on him. This was like maybe 5 days before the operation, and so I was kind of cool with it too. I thought, if he's not worried about it, I'm not gonna worry about it.
Right.
And he went into that operation, man, and never came out.
Hmm.
So it was a shock. I was really a lot of us were in shock, because Bill, Bill, as you guys know, the dude had a lot of life, and he was just really well loved.
Mhm.
And so I think 20th Century Fox threw a memorial for him, and we went to the memorial, and people spoke really highly of him. And there were some people who, like Tom Hanks, which I was surprised, were able to impersonate the hell out of Bill. The hell out of Bill. And Rob Lowe was another one who impersonated the hell. I mean, they were perfect, but it was a lot of love in that, at that memorial, and dude would be well loved. And then because I knew his wife, and I knew his kids, I knew that they're gonna, the void that's gonna have. But Bill, working with Bill was interesting too. Funny that you should mention that, Laura. I'll tell you this about working with Bill. When he was working on the set, a lot of times there was a lot of downtime in movie making, and during that downtime, they had weights, so we could lift weights and kind of like get bulked up for the breakfast scene, for the scene when we get out of hyper sleep. So they wanted us to look fit. So they shot that scene towards the end of the movie. So all during the making of the movie, when we had time off, we would be working, we were lifting weights and trying to get our bodies so we can look our best. And Bill would be in a corner working on his lines, trying to deliver them different ways, trying to find the character, working on. There was an insecurity that I think that he had as an actor that propelled him to greatness. It made his work ethic, I think, a little better than ours.
Right.
And I remember him doing the monologue when the drop ship happened. He had to do his monologue where he's going off and he's panicking and everything. And I think Hicks is like falling asleep while he's panicking. And he was doing the monologue, and I remember thinking, "Oh man, it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna. He's not doing this good." And then we went to the premiere, and I felt like he stole the show. And so again, it was another lesson for a young actor that you can't judge anything until people are finished doing their work. And by the time he finished the work, the performance was there, and when they put it all together, I felt like he stole the show in a lot of ways.
That's cool.
No, that's
Wow. Wow. Life lessons you can learn from people. I like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Bill's definitely a legend. I love Twister too. He's got
Oh, I
classic.
love
Oh my God.
Twister.
Yes.
He's got
Oh,
Yes.
classics, man.
he was so talented, and he just seemed like a really good guy. I mean, obviously I've never met him, but he just had this air that it just seemed like he was someone you could talk to, someone that was approachable, you know. So
Very much so. Very much so. And
Underrated as
anybody,
well
it didn't
too.
matter if you were somebody important or if you were somebody who were, just a fan. He gave of his time.
Yeah.
And even for me, now that once he was producing, he started pulling me in and trying to help me out to be, that was another loss, because I think if he had been around, I probably would have produced more projects myself, because he was definitely one of those guys that were trying to help me get things going like he had them going at that time.
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
that's
cool.
definitely the downer. And
Well, I'm very sorry for your loss. You know.
Well, while we're talking about working with stars, I mean, we kind of skipped over the Tom Cruise thing. You want to talk about Tom Cruise and
Oh,
MI3? Since we
Interesting
talked
working
about
with Tom
Bill, I
Cruise,
mean,
because
he's the actor, right? Tom Cruise of Hollywood. He's like the Jordan of this shit, kind of, you know?
yeah,
So
yeah,
how does it
right.
how's that? Tell us about that, the mighty Tom Cruise, bro.
Well, the movie we worked on, we shot it in Prague, in the Czech
Mhm.
Republic, and
okay.
I was working on Aliens at the same time, and
Oh, okay.
they wanted me to shoot this thing in Prague, and James was cool enough to schedule around it so that I could shoot both movies, and I had to go to Prague twice to shoot the part that I had, and I get there, and I'll tell you two quick stories. First story I'll tell you is this. A lot of times when an actor has this kind of aura about him, it's not necessarily that he's created it. It's people around him can create it. Because I
Right.
remember the first time he came on set, he was coming to set. The walkie-talkies start going off, and people are going, "Mr. Cruz is entering the building," and Mr. Cruz is, and so you start hearing this, and everybody start getting on their best P's and Q's. And
Right. Right.
he's just a regular guy, but everybody else is treating him differently. So it's not him; it's the way
Mm.
they're treating him that's making it kind of seem awkward.
Right.
And then, of course, when we're working together, it's just two actors trying to figure the scene out.
Mhm.
And so that was interesting, because I realized that it's not him that creates this kind of thing that's can sometimes be crazy. It's really the people that are creating this. The
Mhm.
other thing was when he would come and when he would leave, because we keep in mind we're in Eastern Europe,
Right.
and when he would come and he would leave, three cars would come. He would be in one car. All the cars are identical, and two lookalikes would be in the other cars. And when they would
Yeah.
leave, they would go in different directions.
Hmm.
And so you
Like a
didn't know which
present.
one was him and which one.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so that was another thing, when it comes to mind, that there is a price to pay for fame and fortune.
Oh yeah.
Because when you're worth 50, $100 million, kidnapping is something that some people will really study
Yeah.
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 in Eastern Europe, because
Makes
that
sense.
that could be $5 million, $20 million, or something like that. And
Yeah.
so you have to take precautions because of that. So that was the other thing that was really interesting, is that you have to live your life differently. You can't walk down the street like you and I walk down the street. And then there was an incident that happened on the set where there was me, Christian Scott Thomas, and Tom Cruise, and
Mhm.
we're about to do a scene, and we're talking through the scene with the director Brian De Palma, and one of the lights that might have weighed, you know, 50 pounds dropped from the ceiling,
Ooh.
and it hit the ground about 2 feet from Tom, and it was like an explosion. And I was about 5 feet away from him, but it was like
Mhm.
it was like 2 feet away from Tom.
Wow.
and everybody jumped. And Tom was really cool about it. He says, "I guess I'm just a lucky guy," because that thing had hit him on the head. I mean, it could have killed him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always thought that they had kind of like safety changed on those things or something like that. But for whatever reason, that thing came down, and it came down like an explosion. And I like the way he handled it. I'm assuming somebody probably got fired, but
Mm.
Mm.
he didn't lose his stuff, and we kept on moving. There was one incident that I will say that I thought was kind of him flexing.
Mhm.
And I love the dude working with him as an actor. He was very giving, and he wasn't trying to play the superstar. But there was an incident where me and Christian Scott Thomas were waiting to start the scene, and it's a scene with me, Christian Scott Thomas, and Tom Cruise. And so we're just waiting and waiting, and then at some point we were like, "What's going on?" And then one of the crew comes up and says, "Well, the director said that he's not coming until the whole cast is here." And Tom says he's not coming until the director's here. And so the two of them are doing this standoff. And me and Christian are just sitting there waiting on who's gonna give in first.
Right.
And eventually, because Tom was not only the star of the movie, but he was also a producer, he
Right.
realized that he was burning his money.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so he came, and then after he came, the director came and we shot the film.
Yeah. That's
No,
nuts.
that's the thing about it. And Rico, I was gonna give you, we talked about Bill, but somebody that's not mentioned as much, that's part of your brotherhood as well, as Trevor Steadman. Rest in peace. And if you're cool with it, I'd like to hear some thoughts on your relationship with Trevor.
My relationship with Trevor and his daughter runs deep, because Trevor was like a big teddy bear
Mm.
with a crazy sense of humor. He had a great sense of humor. He could be the life of the party so easily, and he didn't have a lot of lines in the film, but when the camera wasn't rolling, he was the funny guy. And it was nice because a lot of times when you're on a film, there's a lot of tension, and even when things aren't happening, there's just tension in the air. And it was nice to have Trevor there because, and Trevor, he comes from kind of a working class background, English background, so he's a Cockney, and so he sort of talked like this in real life, and he had that kind of humor too, and it was needed on a film where there's a lot of tension, and even when the camera's not off, because you're used to that tension, you tend to carry it even when the camera's not off. And Trevor was one of those guys that could kind of like bring you back down again, let you kind of relax, so that when we start back up again, you've got the energy to start back up, and your neck's not locked up or something. And when Trevor passed, it was hard because he was really well loved, and his daughter, I had gotten to know her really well, and all of a sudden he's gone. But we had Tip Tipping
Yes.
go before him, and Tip was a stunt man, but one of his specialties was diving out of airplanes, parachuting. And he ended up doing a job where he had to dive out, and his parachute, something went wrong, and he fell to his death.
Mm.
And he was the first of the cast to go.
Mm.
And so it was weird when he went, and then Trevor went. And those are the two English Marines that played Marine, English stunt guys, and they were the first two to go.
Mm.
So it was hard for us.
Well, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, both those guys rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
I got a quick question. I want to sum up like a middle of these. It seems like you filmed in quite a bit of locations, Rico. You've been quite around. I mean, South Africa, right? Japan, saving someone's life in Germany. Tell us a little bit about your Captain Planet days, bro. You know what I mean? Moving around, doing your thing. I know you got a lot more stories in there. So kind of sum up those kind of three questions, those three locations, that situation where you say
this is the thing, man. When you when you live in Europe, because I was living in Europe at the time,
Right.
it's really a lot easier to experience a number of different other countries
Right.
because they're so close, you
Mhm.
know. And also in this profession, we are blessed with the ability to work in different countries. And when you work in those different countries, it's on their dime.
Right.
And that's the best way to go to different countries when somebody else is paying for you to get there,
Oh
paying for
yeah.
your hotel, paying for your food, you know.
Mm.
And what I would often do, and I still do when I go to a country for work, I'll go there and then I'll stay a week later, you know, and
Yeah.
just explore the country, and
Mm.
then just use that round trip ticket to get back home. So
Right.
it was, let me see, Hamburg, Hamburg, Germany. I did a TV series there, and as we were shooting a scene outside about celebrating Christmas. And this is a quick story, but as we're shooting the scene and we stopped and we were gonna set up to do another take, I
Mhm.
see some people outside gathering around, and I go over there to see what it is, and it's this old dude who's fallen down, and the dude's eyes are rolled back in his head, and he's not breathing.
Mm.
And so I go over there, and this lady has her makeup mirror to his nose, and she's going 9 9, and then this guy's holding his wrist, and he's going 9 9, and I'm thinking, has anybody given them CPR? And they're just looking at me like I'm crazy. So I just push the guy's dentures in his mouth, and I give him CPR. And after about 30 seconds, the dude comes to life.
Mm.
That's
He
crazy.
just starts breathing. And after that, I'm like high, and I'm screaming, "Has anybody called 911?" I don't even know if that's the number in Germany, but I'm living in
Mhm.
Germany. Anybody called 9? I'm just high, and when I'm asking that, people are going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and the guy stops breathing, and so I have to do this whole thing all over again, and I get him to breathe again, and by the second time I got him to breathe, the ambulance rolls up, and they take
Mhm.
him, put him in the ambulance, but they don't leave. And after a few minutes, we see the whole ambulance is rocking. And I guess they're giving him whatever that is they do to people when they get their hearts going.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they're trying to
Wow.
resuscitate him. And so we're just waiting, and I'm just waiting to find out why this ambulance isn't leaving. And the director then says, "Listen, we have to start back working." And now the humanity in me has taken over. And I'm more concerned about this guy than doing this scene where I'm going to be celebrating Christmas and happy and all that shit. When this guy is in the ambulance right here where I can see it, and I don't even know if he's going to make it. So I'm
Yeah.
having my own little emotional thing going on here. And one of the actors came to me and said, "Ricco, we got to do this, man." He says, "But listen," um, I said, no, I told him, I said, this is real life here, man. This what we're doing. This is make believe. This is bullshit." And he goes,
Yeah.
"No, you can't just write what we do off like that." He says, if we didn't do what we do, and some people didn't have a break from their kids or whatever it is to watch a movie or something to take them in a place where they can think about something different, their life would be different. So you can't just say that what we do doesn't hold value. And so he kind of like brought me back down.
Right.
Anyway, the guy goes off, and I asked him, I said, "Wherever he goes, I just want to know where he's going. I want to know if he's going to make it." And so the next day, one of the crew people, they gave me a number to the hospital that he was at, and I didn't call. And
Mm.
then 2 days went by, and I still hadn't called. And that actor that had calmed me down, he says, "So how'd the guy do?" I says, "I don't know." He goes, "Why?" I said, "I didn't call." He goes, "Why didn't you call? You wanted to know how he's doing." I said, "Because I think I was calling for the wrong reason. I wanted to call for the wrong reason." And
Mm.
this is my own shit I had going on. But the reason why I didn't call, if I'm honest with you guys, is because we're in Germany, and this is an old dude, and I'm doing the math, and I'm thinking, I wonder if this guy was like some fucking Hitler youth. I want to go, and I want him to see who saved his life. Yeah, I want him to see that a brother saved his life.
Mm.
And then I realized, Rico, that's not the reason to go see this guy.
Mm.
And so I didn't go see him. And then my boy
Exactly.
told me, he says, "Listen," the other actor told me, he says, "Why don't you just put that aside and just go see if he's all right? Just think about the man." And I said, "You're right." And so I did call, the next day, and they told me that his son had just come and taken him home. He was fine, and his son had just come taking him home 2 hours before I called, and so he did survive. And I never got to see him. He never got to see me, but I did find out that he made it. So that was my little story about that. But I was high on saving this guy's life. I remember after I found out that when they took him away, I called my mom, and I don't know what time it was in America, but I called my mom, and I was just so high that I had to save somebody's life. So that's a quick story out of one. But we've been talking for a long time. I know you guys want to bring the thing to an end, don't you?
Ricco, when you're on, it never wants to end.
Was there any other questions that we missed that you guys want to cover, Laura or Drew? I mean,
no,
I just want to send.
Oh, go ahead, Laura.
I just want to send hugs. Like, thank you for Aliens, and thank you for your good work in Aliens. I mean, I know back then when you're sitting there at the eating breakfast on the set, you're not thinking about the people that are watching it now, and so many years later, but I'd like to thank that young man for being there, and thank you for being here now, and hugs to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, final thoughts for me. I don't know where you're at as far as your acting schedule, but as we level up with what me and Drew got going on with Ninjetti, I mean, we got some VR Trooper things going on. We've got some franchise reboots we're planning and a lot of things. So I definitely appreciate your energy, your wisdom, your stories, everything. Just being that realm. You're a real actor. You're the real deal. So for me, it's important to see people in your realm come down, let's say, to our level and show that they're real people, and talk to the people and show the people that mess with us that, hey, you can make it, you can have a life like this, you can do these type of things. So I've got a lot of passion to do one of the illest ninja sagas that's ever been done. And it's a Power Ranger spinoff. You're familiar with the Ninjetti? They're from the movie, from the 95 movie, when they get the ninja powers. So I'm writing a whole saga. I'm trying to save Power Rangers. And, Drew has all these people on his resume. So just be able to meet you and another notch, he has on his belt of awesome people in the film world. It's inspiring, bro. It really is. Good. So I thank you for coming through anytime. We definitely want you to come through again.
Well, I know the guy that played Trek, right?
Who?
The guy that played Trek on the Ninja Turtles. Was that Trek? Was it? What's his name? The Japanese guy, actor. I can't think of the character.
Oh, which Ninja Turtles? The first one?
I can't think of it, but I'll send it to Drew. But he's somebody you might want to put on your podcast because he has a lot of stories about the experience of shooting.
Yeah, we're definitely networking and trying. I just met Amy Jo and JYB too. So I'm trying to push some art and suit designs for the movie, storyboard stuff like that. So I appreciate
I got a question, Ricco. Will you come back and see us?
I mean, it depends on my schedule. I'm shooting a TV series. I got a TV series dropping on the 24th of October called Beauty in Black, and it's a Netflix 16-episode 1-hour drama, and we're supposed to be shooting the second season. Even before the first season drops, they're already talking about organizing our second season filming, and they're going to drop 8 episodes on the 24th of this month, and then we don't know when they're going to drop the other 8. But we are going to start shooting before we even finish. They even finish airing the 16.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of other projects going up too. But if I'm available, I'll try and make myself available to talk to you guys. And like I said, I can send you this other actor who I think you guys would probably appreciate having him on. He's got
definitely
about the making of those Ninja Turtle movies.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ricco. You're so sweet.
Thank you.
No, absolutely, Ricco. And we just appreciate you coming through. I wanted to ask you about Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson, you know, is what I wanted to get to because, you know, I know the Dirty Dozen. These two may not know who those two guys are as much as I do, but I grew up in the time of watching the old Lee Marvin movies from Twilight, the original black and white Twilight Zone, to doing the Dirty Dozen, to him doing Delta Force with Chuck Norris when he was older, and Charles Bronson being the Death Wish guy and being part of the Magnificent Seven.
You know,
Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner. Yeah,
that's right.
Queen. So
if I come back, man, we'll dive into that because I've got some stories about those two guys.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
You know,
maybe get you in some Ranger stuff. We'll see some VR Trooper, Mentor, Sensei, some Sensei roles or something. You know, we'll see. But it was a pleasure, Ricco, and an honor, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Hugs, lots of hugs.
I'll take them.
No, we really appreciate you coming through, Ricco, and as always, man, it's just always great getting together with you. You know, and I know you're booked. I mean, you were booked. You've been booked forever, so just to be able to make time, you know, I really, really appreciate you, you know, for that.
Oh yeah,
no thank you.
All right, whatever you guys have a great weekend.
You know, so.
All right, Ricco. Thank you, bro.
All right, you guys have a great weekend.
You too. All right, guys. This has been Knights of the Dragon. This is Drew Danger, Lady Laura, Rican Ranger, and our special guest, Brother Ricco Ross, spreading the wisdom and the joy and the knowledge that he does. Guys, reach out to us. Let us know what you guys think, what you do and don't like, and we'll try to make it even better and make things happen. So here we go, guys. I'm not going to do a long intro because we got a special guest and he's got to go. But I promise I'll do it next time. Yeah. All right, guys. Knights of the Dragon out.
Take care. All right, deuces.
Nice. That was awesome, Drew. To hear so much about the movie, awesome.